Hey there, good morning, folks, and happy Sunday to you. I hope you're having a fantastic weekend. Coming at you live with this week's video watch list, the shortened version. If you want my take on the markets, you're gonna have to watch. You're gonna have to go watch the live version, which is a little bit more lengthy. Actually, it's a lot bit more lengthy. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the stocks to watch for next week. AQXP. I know this had an insane run on Friday, and looks as though it probably is going to make for a fantastic short. And you know what? At some point, it probably will. But these things, when they have these kind of runs, can run for multiple days. You look for a potential red to green move. A potential place for entry would be around $8.10 if it were to hold. That was former resistance. If you get a pullback to around 8.10 and bounce, you could get a nice little scalp trade off of that. You know, this thing traded 62 million shares in one day. Its entire float is 4.5 million shares. So this thing could continue to be in play next week. Don't chase it, whatever you do. But if you can find some kind of a nice, clearly defined setup intraday, it may be there for the taking. SREV, this thing had a nice little bounce on Friday. I think that was off of earnings. I'm looking for a potential $6 row. Again, this could be a red to green move, potentially go up and then fill this gap right around $6.20 or so. Um, Worth paying attention to. Like I said, another potential red to green move. EVC looking for an $8 roll, potentially go up test around $8.76. Another one that could do a little red to green move. Had some nice volume on Friday, nice little candle there, and I love those round number rolls. So look for that to take out the $8 holla. AVTL, Auto by Tel, big area here at 18 bucks. Gapped up on Friday. I'm not sure if that was earnings, but pretty decent volume behind the move. 18 is a big area. If it could take 18 out with conviction, you could get a nice little day trade scalp there. Uh, Legacy, so here's an oil and gas name. If oil, by chance, if we were to get some kind of a bounce in oil, this one might take out the $8 holler, could take out this trend line. Keep in mind though, this thing has already had a tremendous move from $5.68 all the way up to $7.90. Basically came up into this trend line and failed. If it takes out the trend line, I think maybe it goes up and tests the $10 holla. HIMX, this is more of a swing stock, and I know it's in the semiconductor sector, which is under pressure, but I like this one potentially for a long-term hold. I think that they've got some good things coming on the horizon. This thing had a nice little bounce on Friday. This 585 going back on the weekly is a big area of support. Okay, it was resistance back here. It is support here. I think you have a clearly defined area of support. Interesting play. If it were to get to that 585, I would absolutely start building a position for a long-term hold. But I may start dipping my toe anyway. Gig, let's see, Gig had this big pop, consolidating a little bit. It's in the semiconductor sector again, not a very strong sector, but I like the way it's consolidating. It might need a bit more time. If it takes out the trend line, I'd take it for a day trade. If it were to pull back into this 190, I may take it for a swing. SSNI, love this thing for a swing setup. No debt, strong earnings. They just reported earnings. It gapped up. I actually tried to get this. I tried to get this as a swing at $11.76. Didn't get it. Um, but I'm watching this. It came up into this trend line. It's pulling back. I'd like to see potentially if I could get involved with this thing somewhere in the 1150 range. I want to see it pull back, consolidate. I I'm going to own this stock for the long term, for a long term hold. A10, you know, this was on my list last week. It's consolidating right below the $7 holla after the big pop off of earnings. Looking for it to consolidate a bit more. Let me see something here real quick. Oh, the chief executive officer bought some shares at $6.88. Interesting play for me here, this A10. It may be more of a swing type setup. You got to be you got to kind of pay attention to what's going on in the overall market. But I do think that it probably will come up and fill this gap somewhere around $7.76 or so. Keep an eye on A10. DGII, communication equipment sector, has been pretty hot. These guys, I think, just reported earnings right below the $10 hollow. Very thin stock. Don't go chasing this thing, but I like it for a $10 break with some volume behind it. It could be a nice runner. I think it's fairly thin. Not a lot of shares in the float. Worth paying attention to DGII. GUR reported earnings after the close on Friday, and I mean they were like amazing earnings. Keep in mind, this is a Chinese company, so who knows if those earnings are real, but the numbers sure look good on paper. This thing may gap up. If it does, do not chase it. I mean, this thing can't be a gap, it can be a pop and flopper, so be very careful. Look at this thing back here. It had this huge pop, and, by the end of the day, it was, it closed down here, $1.76, went all the way up to $2.80. So be careful. Do not chase GUR. But the earnings look pretty good. We'll see if we get some kind of continuation or gap up on Monday. RKUS. This thing had a nice big pop. I'm not sure if that was off of earnings or what, but nice big pop. Consolidating nicely. Looks like you're getting some support here at $11.80. Look for it to, if it were to pull back to $11.80 or so, that might be a place to dip your toe for a potential day trade or swing. But it's got an interesting look. I like RKUS. VLTC already gapping after post-market close. They're getting out of one business, getting into another business. It seems that the street reacted favorably. It's going to be a gapper. Do not go chasing this thing. It's a Carl Icahn name. It can have some tremendous runs, and likely will have some action on Monday. But wait for a good setup on it. Don't just go buying it off the open. Activision, I like this thing. It might need more time to consolidate. It does have this gap to fill. I like this. This is a thick stock. This is more for a long-term hold. This is not something that I would be looking to just day trade. OGXI, earnings apparently are next week. It's pulled back to this 276 area. That could be support for it. Looking for it to break over this trend line with some conviction. Earnings may be the thing that does that. If earnings suck, this thing could, gap down and open at about $1.93. So be careful. Trovenge, another one that has earnings next week. I'm looking at this area of support right here. The $6.50. It was resistance. Now I'm looking at it as support. They just did an offering. $8 and change, $8.50, I think. If earnings are good, this thing could pop hard. So I like Trovenge. It's a thinner name. Keep it on your radar. HIVE has been on my radar for 2 or 3 weeks now. It continues to consolidate. I'm looking for it to break above 8 with conviction, with some volume. It might need more time. I might dip my toe in this thing for a swing at around $7 and around $7 actually is kind of what I'm thinking. We'll see. But I do like this. I like this HIVE. TWTR, broken stock, broken name, but it's getting interesting. Came public at $26 a share, and it's about to test that. I think that's a psychological. I think that's where they want to drive it to, is $26. This would be more of a swing type. Maybe a long-term hold. Start continuing to build a position there. I like it. If it gets down to 26, I think it gets interesting. You might get some kind of a snapback. But like I said, longer-term hold in Twitter. NYMX has been flagging out really nicely on the daily. I think that at some point these guys are going to raise, they're going to do an offering, but they haven't done one yet. They have this big pop. It's been consolidating nicely, looking for a trend line break. This would be a day trade, for a $3 test again. But I like the look of NYMX. Other than that, folks, that is all I have on my list for this week. Be careful out there. Things are looking a little sketchy. Like I said, if you want to if you want to get my take on the markets, you got to watch the live recording. I go over that in the very beginning of the session, so it's not like you got to watch the whole thing. Just watch the first 10, 15 minutes or so, and you'll get my take on the overall markets. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm so excited. Football is almost here. Preseason starts. Excellent, excellent stuff. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Good luck trading next week, and be safe.